Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. We have attendees logging in from across the region, and we're delighted to have you with us for the next hour. This session is brought to you in partnership between Oren and HLB HAMT, two organizations committed to helping businesses across the UAE turn evolving sustainability regulations into a genuine strategic advantage. Before we dive in, I have a few housekeeping notes. Firstly, we will share the slides and access to the recording with you after the session. Secondly, we have a dedicated Q&A section towards the end, 15 minutes. You can drop your questions in the Q&A box and we will take it up towards the end. If your questions have not been picked up during the session, we will personally reply to you over email. Um, Great. So let's start. Let me introduce the two distinguished speakers we have with us today. Joining us first is Jason Clement from HLB HAMT. Jason advises organizations on ESG strategy, regulatory compliance, and integrated reporting. Working closely with boards and management to embed ESG into governance and day-to-day operations, he brings international experience from the London insurance market and has led ESG delivery across the Middle East. Supporting sectors including oil and gas and manufacturing, his work spans ESG frameworks, GHG, and MRB compliance. Jason is widely respected for his ability to translate complex ESG requirements into decision-ready insights and audit-ready outputs aligned with GRI, SASB, and TCFD. Jason, lovely to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Anna.
Next,
It's
thank you. Next, I'm so delighted to welcome Arushi. She's the Chief Executive Officer at Oren, Asia's leading AI platform and ESG sustainability. With over a decade of experience at the intersection of sustainability and technology, Arushi has worked closely with ESG leaders at public and large private enterprises across industries and geographies, supporting them in their ESG and sustainability journeys. Beyond her leadership at Orange, she also serves as an ESG and sustainability tech advisor to multiple companies and institutions. She is the TEDx speaker and has been recognized among the top 100 women leading climate tech companies globally. Arshi, it's wonderful to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Johanna, and it's super, super nice to be here.
I would like to ask Jason to introduce HLB a little for us here.
absolutely. Again, great platform. Great number of people have already joined in. Very good afternoon to everyone. Pleasure to have all of you here. I think we'll dive right in. So I represent HLB HAMT, which is part of the HLB International Network. It's headquartered out of London. We span across 155 countries, and we've got an employee strength which is growing on a daily basis. We've almost hit 60,000 employees all over the world. And I think, Ahana, if you can go to the next page, you'll find more info on HLB HAMT, which is a UAE-based firm centered around audit, tax, and advisory. Yes, I think, is my audio clear to everyone else? Or is it just
Yes.
Deepika? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, HLB Hamd again based out of the UAE. We are present in all the seven Emirates. We've got offices, almost nine offices all across the UAE, and we've got 16 partners and directors. Got more than 300 employees. I think there's some echo issue. Hope it gets resolved. We'll be speaking a little more about our capabilities and what we have to offer, and what exactly are the solutions we provide to cater to the Federal Decree 11. But yeah, over to you, Ahana.
Arshi, can you chime in a little on Orin here?
Absolutely. This is my favorite topic to talk about. And I think before I begin, I just want to say, Jason, I'm just so excited to do this with you again. It's been a while, right? I think last year we did a few of these webinars, and it's really nice to be talking about the subject you and and our entire team absolutely loves again. And again, thank you everyone for joining us. It's really nice to see lots of existing customers and potential customers and lots of good friends who have also joined us for this webinar. It's really, really nice to do this together. talking about Oren, we're Asia's leading AI-powered ESG platform. Today, there are a bunch of things that we already offer, such as GHG emissions management, Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3. We go very, very deep in Scope 3. We have all the 15 categories built in. And even within those multiple methodologies, depending on the organization's maturity, to help them account on the Scope 3 element as well. Then sustainability reporting, we have all global frameworks built in. In the UAE, GRI has been the most popular one, but we now also see clients asking us for IFRS S1, S2. And beyond that, we can do any custom report as well. If you have a custom report that your customer has probably sent you, or your investor or your banker, etc., we can do that for you. And of course, value chain sustainability. This is something that which is very unique that we offer. We can engage the entirety of your value chain, be it 10 suppliers all the way to 10,000 suppliers. We can manage the entire sustainability performance for those folks. And yeah, super nice to be here.
Thank you so much, guys. Okay, so with introductions being done, let's get into the heart of today's conversation. I will hand it over to you, Arushi, to take it from here.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ahana. Could you take us to the main slides? Yes. Perfect. The first thing we want to talk about is understanding the law, right? I do think that at this point, most of us do understand it, but there are still, when Jason and I are out there speaking with customers, there are lots of small nuances that perhaps miss the understanding of some of the people we speak with. So we wanted to put it all together to give you a top to bottom on what the law states. Right. So the Federal Decree Law number 11, it's the first of its kind law which mandates organizations that are registered in the UAE to have a GHG emissions accounting done. Now, in terms of scope, this law is applicable to absolutely all organizations out there, right? Be it a mainland organization or a free zone organization, and all free zones, not only the ones that you see listed here, but absolutely all free zones have to be covered in the law. Now, in terms of the mandate, today Scope 3 remains out of the mandate. However, organizations have to report on their Scope 1, Scope 2 emissions. Then they have to also develop science-based and evidence-based reduction strategy on their Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, and most definitely have an audit done for that data and those initiatives. Now, this law marries very, very neatly into UAE's net zero vision of 2050, and also it contributes extremely neatly into our NDC commitments as well. Can we go to the next slide, Ahana? Perfect. Now, I think at this point, sustainability is not new for us, right? And again, I was the reason why I mentioned the kind of folks that have joined. I think for all of you, right, there is no question on the importance of sustainability, right? Let alone the little segment of sustainability the law today covers being just GHG emissions, right? But beyond that, today what we see with the clients we work with currently, and the clients the potential customers we're speaking with today, how they look at the space of sustainability is that there are multiple stakeholders that require sustainability data from them. Not only GHG, some just focus on GHG, but most tend to cover multiple other elements, right? And these are stakeholders such as, of course, the regulator. Right, listed companies tend to have additional mandates from ADX and DFM. In addition to that, even customers, right? any of you who's in the value chain of Dubai airports, AD ports, Saudi Aramco, ADNOC, and many more such large companies have definitely started hearing from them on them requiring certain elements of ESG data from you, right? Then another very interesting thing that HLB Hampton and Oren has been cooking, right? It's a little secret, but I'll let you all know that we've been building like an absolutely amazing solution for sustainable finance. Right, given how much sustainable finance is out there in the market, with lots of these large local banks have made commitments and promises to disperse so many, and there's a lot of creative sustainable finance options as well. So that's another reason why companies today are interested in cleaning up their data, converting it into sustainability data, have these sustainability reports ready, and of course, in case there are any investors, right? So today it's not only looked at as a compliance thing, right? There is a lot of value that can be drawn, right? And where there is value, there is a board fiduciary as well, to ensuring that as we communicate this information around sustainability to our various stakeholders, this data is absolutely correct, it's absolutely clear, and there is transparency maintained. Right. When you look at the regulator mandates as well, the verification is mandated, right? And I've seen HLB HAMT do a ton of these verification exercises as well. And the independent verification has to be done under the ISAE 3410 standard as well, right? And of course, when it comes to anything related to climate risk, the IFRS has to be covered as well. Right now, lots of times companies come and tell us that, hey, with everything going on, I'm not sure whether this would go through. But I think our constant response to everyone is that the government has not said no to this, right? And I think Jason has a pet peeve of refreshing the MRV website every single day, and he was just telling us that the website is live and kicking today, and so I think we just urge absolutely everyone today here listening to us who has a company based in the UAE with a license to start reporting, because there is very strong penalty and reputational challenges and damages that could happen as well. But yes, over to you, Jason.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Arushi, for that. And again, I think we've got very good turnout. And this topic is something we have been covering since last year when the law actually came into effect. And since then, we have conducted multiple awareness sessions. I think as we approach the end of this reporting cycle, the reporting period, it's important again to drill down on who exactly is covered, because it is a matter of compliance. It is a federal decree which applies to every organization, free zone, mainland, or everywhere. So again, let's go step by step. And at any point, please feel free to put it on the chat. One of us will be responding to it, or perhaps at the end we will respond. But yeah, someone's always monitoring the chat box. So who must comply? Listed PJCs, for sure, they already have a reporting process in place. It falls under the annual ESG and integrated reporting mechanism. Mainland LLCs, yes, absolutely. Again, the law doesn't differentiate between mainland and free zone. A lot of the federal decrees and cabinet resolutions tend to have this sort of differentiation. This particular law, which is the UAE climate change law, does not have any sort of demarcation for free zones or mainland. So every free zone holding company, every mainland organization, and foreign, if they have a foreign parent company but they have a UAE branch, sole establishments, all of them come under this law. A very simple way of understanding this would be that this law is linked to the trade license. If you are a legal entity registered anywhere in the UAE, you will have to comply. If you are a source, now again, source has multiple definitions that we will be covering. If you satisfy any one of the criteria, I think it becomes very clear to everyone that this is a matter of compliance. So yeah, Ahna, you can move forward. Thank you. Yeah. Common misconceptions, again, people tend to club laws. I know there are a lot of different compliance requirements out there. You've got more and more coming up every year. You've got your corporate tax, which is now in full effect. You've got e-invoicing, which is coming to UAE. You've had your ESR, which came in a couple of years ago. So while there is a lot for organizations to put up with, to comply with, this is one of them. This has absolutely no difference when it comes to the hierarchy or level of compliance. So again, free zone status equals exemption is an absolute misconception. Every free zone entity has to register. If they have a group of companies with multiple entities within it, they have to register at an entity level within the portal individually. So I think that itself becomes an exercise of its own. Only large emitters are regulated. Used to be a very, very common misconception, but every day I think more and more people are realizing that it is very important to understand the law. Now, when it comes to the Abu Dhabi Emirates, they have a guidance document of their own, which does set a threshold. And when it comes to all the other Emirates, there is no such threshold being set by the government. So every legal entity, if they are a source, again, has to comply with this. And as we speak, the infrastructure behind this law is being built. Individual government bodies are being given the authority, and it's being delegated to really regulate this law in a proper manner. So you've got Dubai. There's a DECA. There's a new authority which is sole purpose and of establishment was to regulate this law. And you can see a foreign parent reporting at the group level. Usually, a lot of the MNCs tend to skirt a lot of different compliance requirements, saying that the group at the group level they are reporting it. They have policies. It does not apply here. Unfortunately, you will have to have a UE jurisdiction level carbon inventory. You will have to do a third party assurance at the UE jurisdiction level. So again, your boundary of data collection, your boundaries for your policies, sustainability policies, all of that has to be very, very UE specific. So there are 21 articles within the law. It's very important that we're all well aware of all the 21 articles. It's just not to build a carbon inventory using some free online calculator. You have to build it using the GHG protocol because that is what the law states. You need to have a sustainability policy in place. You need to have all of the right elements of waste, water management, all of that in place, which is a one-time exercise. But again, it needs to be reviewed periodically. But at an annual basis, you will have to collect your carbon emissions. And this has been, again, quick point to note here. This is the year of transition, which Moke, the regulatory body, has mentioned over here. Moving forward, the plan is to adhere to the book of records similar to accounting. So you'll need to retroactively have previous year records as well for the company, for those companies which can produce evidence for those records. So yeah. Um, Finally, voluntary climate disclosure is sufficient. Absolutely not. This is a Federal Decree 11. That's a law and it's out there. It's in effect. It's been drafted since 2024. That's why it's called the Federal Decree 11 of 2024. So yeah, these are the common misconceptions. Yeah. Okay. What are your immediate obligations? Defining an organizational boundary, which is very, very important. You will have to submit a registration at the MRB portal. Again, this portal is specifically designed for catering to this law. And once you register there, you will have to start building your organizational boundary data based on which you'll have to start measuring your scope 1 and scope 2 emissions. As of now, these are the only two scopes which are mandatory, and there are plenty of companies with different types of business operation. Some who have only scope 1, which is your direct emissions. They might not have scope 2. There are some organizations which have only scope 2, and for some reason they believe that since it's the number 2, it might not be as important as scope 1, so they might not have to comply. That is also absolutely wrong. Even if you do not have any scope 1 emissions, but you have offices which consume electricity, purchase energy, utilities, and that is reflected on your financials, All of that counts. You will have to comply with this law. And then finally, verification is also important. Depends on the Emirates. We will have to look at where your organization is based out of, who is the regulatory body there, what are the exact laws and guidance that you have to comply with, and ultimately the assurance part of things. Once you do it, once you build this, how do you provide a third party verification to it, saying that your organization has collected and consolidated this data in the right way? And the final report, which then goes on to your MRV portal with all the evidence, with all the policies, yeah, and which are in the right way. So retaining data is something again the government is looking at very, very strongly, but that would kick in the coming years. So essentially, you will have to start building right now if you have not already started. So I think that is those are all the obligations in a very quick nutshell. But yeah,
Mm, Perfect. So MRV, the simple full form is measure, report, and verify. The Ministry of Environment wants companies to measure, report, and verify their GHG emissions data. What does measure mean? Measurement is simply accounting for the greenhouse gas emissions that you have. Today, as per the GHG protocol, greenhouse gas emissions are broken down into scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. And today, scope 3 is entirely out of scope for this for the purpose of this law, right? Now, I believe there is a question here, wherein and this is by Mohit, and I guess everyone can see Mohit's question. So Mohit, just responding to your question as well, right? For lots of organizations, given the kind of operation they have, perhaps scope 1 might not be relevant to you, right? I think scope 2, typically all organizations have, because even if perhaps you are not utilizing any kind of fossil fuel in your operation, you definitely are utilizing electricity or electricity per se, right? So what we see is that scope 2 is something that exists across most organization, but because scope 1 is linked only to greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuels burnt, which is more pertinent to perhaps manufacturing organizations, or in case you are using any diesel generators or natural gas generators, so on and so forth, right? But if you're a small setup, sometimes organizations don't have it. So perhaps you can just say that your scope 1 is 0, but then you can just measure your scope 2 emissions, right? So that's one of the things. Second is that the methodology that you need to use is the GHG protocol, right? Or in case if you want to comply with the ISO standard, that of course is an option for you as well. Then something extremely important is that you have to use UAE specific carbon the emission factors. Lots of times when we look at data, and I think these are stories that I've heard primarily from HLB HAMT, right? When they step in and do audits for some of the largest companies in the geography, they see that scope 1, scope 2 emission calculation has been done using emission factors that they found on ChatGPT, right? I think that's a very, very bad practice, right? For scope 2, right? I think something for you to know that the emission factors for scope 2 is directly linked to the grid of that country, right? So the scope 2 emission factors in Dubai versus Saudi versus Netherlands versus Malaysia versus India are all very, very different, because all of these countries operate their own grid, and the emission factor is linked to that, right? Then third, you have to be very conscious about the boundary definition. Jason did cover that in the earlier slide, but you have to make sure that you calculate data on all the licenses that you have within the UAE, right? And there is a different document that has to be created per license, right? I think something that we recommend to our customers, right, is that you should start um, looking into certain scope 3 parameters that are material to your business, right? I mean, if you are talking to a manufacturing organization, of course, category 15, which is financed emissions, etc., will not be material to your business, right? Just pick out few like category 1, category 2 that are material to your business. However, today, if you are on day 1 or day 0 of this process, I would say just forget about scope 3. That's a whole different thing. You can perhaps pick it up 1 year later, 2 years later. For now, just really definitely look into that scope 1 and scope 2 and get this data out. We can move on to the next one, report. Now, and I think this is a question that was asked earlier as well, is that where do you report this, right? So there is an MRV portal that has been put out by the Ministry of Climate Change. And this was launched on the 15th of October, and it is currently live. We can, Rasidul, if you can just add a link to that portal in the chat, it will be helpful for everyone, right? And then there is a separate how do I put it, right? Like a separate document that was released by the Abu Dhabi government. Jason has already covered that, right? But in case, like I said, in case you have multiple entities within the region, you have to develop a report per se for all of those entities and submit this on the portal. The portal also requires you to register yourself first, and then you kind of add that report, right? So perfect. Thank you so much, Rasadul. So that's my piece. And before I invite Jason to come on and talk about the verify bit, Jason, there are a couple of questions that I kind of see on the chat, which would be valuable for you to also touch upon, and which is that what kind of assurance is needed? Is it limited? Is it reasonable? Right? I think that's one question that has definitely come up.
Yeah, I was actually answering a couple of them
Perfect.
directly onto the chat as well. So, yes, so it is the limited liability assurance that is required, and it has to be as per the ISA 3410 standards. I think that is our next slide right here. As you can see, the verification by the independent third party assessment. Again, over here, it is important to understand how the law applies to you, and that depends on where your organization is registered. So, for now, it is quite simple. Abu Dhabi is on one side, there is one set of laws that govern them, and then every other Emirates and every other free zone outside of the Emirates of Abu Dhabi is differently treated, and which is quite straightforward from the Federal Decree 11 articles itself. When it comes to verification, again, explaining, showing evidence that all the right processes have been followed, the right workflow has been followed uh, to provide this limited liability assurance. That assurance statement is part of your submissions onto the MRV portal. Now, for just for everyone's information, whether or not, when it comes to Abu Dhabi, whether or not an assurance is required, there is a threshold value of around 25,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Again, yeah, companies do not have to provide third-party verification just to prove that they do not fall under that over that threshold. If they have done that internal process themselves and they can show evidence and keep it with them, that's all that is required. But as soon as they cross the threshold, they automatically have to follow the same process, the third-party verification process, with the same standard. So yeah, this is on the verification, and I'm happy to keep answering questions as we go uh, on the chat as well.
Yep.
Yeah, the GFG accounting practice. I think Arshi, you can take this one.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason. So, talking about the GHG accounting process, and I think some bits of it was already covered, but I'm also responding to some of the questions here. So, when a company starts doing the accounting for their GHG. GHG is basically greenhouse gas emissions, right? Greenhouse gas emissions come from, I mean, any kind of fossil fuels you burn, perhaps, which gets accounted into your scope one. And today, if you're utilizing electricity or cooling, that goes in your scope two, right? Now, the first thing you need to do is define your boundary, right? I mean, lots of organizations tend to have perhaps their head office in UAE, but they have certain locations outside, and then there's a sister company, etc. So the first thing you need to do, that you neatly need to do is define the boundary for which you are doing this GHG accounting practice, right? Then second is that listing down neatly each and every source of emissions, right? Where is this coming from, right? And what is the fuel that is causing this, right? The source is almost always some kind of fossil fuel, right? Be it the diesel that you're using to run your generators, or the natural gas you are using to run your machines in the manufacturing facility. I'm so sorry about that. Or the refrigerants that you perhaps use in your AC. All of that needs to be accounted for, right? And then the data collection has to happen, right? Now, bear in mind that you need to collect data for 12 months, right? The entirety of the financial year, data has to be collected across all of these emission factors and neatly broken down into scope one and scope two, right? Then once you are internally done with this process, I believe someone asked this question. The portal is not going to do this process for you. The calculation has to be done by you yourself, right? And that's why there are organizations like Oren and HLB HAMT out there. And then a very important element of third party assurance. And one little tip here, right? That as you are doing this entire exercise, make sure that you keep all the bills in one place, right? If you were, say, hypothetically calculating how much electricity was consumed in the month of Jan, Feb, March, April, you multiply that with the emission factor to come up with the emissions pertaining to electricity. I would recommend keeping the DIVA bill perhaps with you in a folder neatly, so that when the third party assurance is at your assurance partner is at your door, they would definitely want to look at all of these documents as well, right? And of course, the methodology as well. Right now, for lots of organizations, what we see that there is a straightforward calculation, right? You will definitely have bills around the fuels you've consumed, electricity you've consumed, maybe AC, refrigerants that you have replaced. But however, for whatever reason, you do not have that information in place, and you utilize some methodology, right, to do some correlation. I mean, perhaps I think one case that we've come across is that there was one employee who was managing this, and they quit, say, middle of the year, right? And you're unable to get any of those bills. You tried reaching out to supplier, you tried everything you could, but you're not able to get that data. And so then you have kind of done some extrapolation based on data for the next 6 months, on the last 6 months. If there's any logic that you have applied, keep that documented, because the third party assurance partner would definitely want to look at it, right? And then the last bit is that you submit this on the MOKE portal. Right. Again, I repeat myself that the MOKE portal is only where I believe, responding to Gina's question as well, that I think the first thing you can do is register yourself, right? And then the step two is that you submit this entire data on the MOKE portal itself. This is the link that Rasidul just shared, the mrv.ae. That is the main and the only portal that is pertinent or important for this law, right? I'll hand it over to Jason to take on the next part.
Yes, again, it's really nice to see the engagement. Quite a few questions coming in. I have started answering from the first ones which have come in. So just responding to Fazil. But yeah, I'll keep responding to that. Coming back to the common implementation pitfalls, because I don't want to spill over in the interest of time. We'll just keep going with the slides. The six pitfalls that derail UAE inventories, which we have noticed, is the free zone assumption. Again, there is no differentiation for a free zone. We will have to see the Emirates you are in and the laws that apply to you, and very simply adhere to the wide umbrella of the federal decree laws. So spreadsheet inventories, again, not the best way to handle things. There is a certain format. Again, there are authorities which have been created explicitly to regulate this. These authorities have come with formats and templates. It's important that we adhere to that. And if not, follow again the wider umbrella of the GAG protocol and the ISA 3410 verification pattern. And yes, moving forward, 2027 onwards, the 5 year evidence retention is going to begin. This has already been unannounced. For companies which have been operational since 2022, they will have to then go back and then start creating this. So this is common knowledge. Undocumented boundaries, again, we have discussed that. I think it's very self-explanatory. Indefensible factors, now, not being able to back up the numbers with evidence opens you up to a myriad of fines and penalties, because the minimum fine which has been set is, again, for non-compliance is 50,000 dirhams, but they have set an upper cap limit of 2 million dirhams as well. In the Federal Decree 11, it is very clearly mentioned that penalties begin at 50,000 and go up to 2 million per entity. So if you operate with multiple entities, you will have to ensure that there is absolutely no greenwashing happening. By greenwashing, I mean a misrepresentation of data, evidence, or facts. So it's extremely important to have the kind of evidences ready along with your carbon inventory. Scope 3 deferral, again, treating Scope 3 as later is not the smart thing to do, because while it is voluntary today, there are multiple categories within Scope 3. It is important that you are at least informed and educated about what those categories are and what really is applicable to your organization. So having that info at hand is important, so that when Scope 3 does become mandatory, as of now, there is no timeline on that, but they have made it voluntarily available. So it's an indication that you need to be aware that there are multiple categories, and you'll have to understand which categories apply to your company. Offsets before measurement, again, buying carbon credits might seem like the simpler way out of this. That is a whole different, I would say, solution to it. You might see the odd mention of the National Registry for Carbon Credits as well, which hasn't been deployed yet. It is still under development. But again, very important to understand that people often confuse the National Registry for Carbon Credits with the MRV portal. And these are two government portals. It all comes down to carbon management, but they are very different. Today's objective is to learn about Federal Decree 11. The regulatory body is MOCE, which is Ministry of Climate Change and Environment of UAE. And the portal created for this is MRV. So there is no overlap with the NRCC. And you have to understand that buying carbon credits is not really the way out over here. So, yeah, I think that's it to cover the implementation pitfalls, deadlines, penalties. Yeah, I think I can take this as well. The deadline is fixed. Again, this has gone into effect since May. The first reporting period ends in 30th May 2026, which means that the first reporting period comes to an end. Every organization has to start building their carbon inventory and starting the registration process. Now, it is not a simple thing, because when we interact with organizations, what we often see, some of the more weird questions are that the portal is down, maybe we don't have to do it. Now, this is absolutely new infrastructure which has been built, and multiple companies have already started registering. So it's a very transparent portal. Everyone can check it out. They can see the organizations which have registered already. So over there, there are chances that sometimes it might crash. For the last 1 week, it was down. But that is the case with the RTA portal as well. In between, it was down for 3 whole days. A lot of things came to standstill. So it's important to recognize that they are still adapting to the load of all the companies starting the registration process, uploading massive data, and then providing assurances on that. So again, the deadlines are fixed as per the law. The final deadline is tentatively June 30th. Again, it is important to know that while this is the year of transition, we can maybe expect some leniency in terms of a month, perhaps. They might give an additional transitional period for organizations to start building it right now. So we have already helped multiple organizations, multiple groups across the UAE build their carbon report, upload it on the portal, and provide the onboarding and assurance supports. Uh, Having again HLB HAMT being here since 1999, we are well known in terms of providing these kind of assurance support. And that is something we have been doing with the help of Oren's uh, engine, which does the calculation. So it's sort of an end-to-end support where we help you register, we help you build the carbon report, and then finally the assurance, and then hand back the credentials, username, password, with all of the evidence back to you. So for the penalties, again, you can see this very clearly signifies the seriousness with which the government has begun. But and this is a matter of compliance. There is no two ways about it. There is no whether to do it or not. So the penalties are very, very clear. It starts at 50,000 dirhams and it goes all the way up to 2 million, depending on the severity of the lack of data or greenwashing. They might increase it, but for non-compliance, again, they have kept it at 50,000 dirhams. And as you can see, repeat offenses again will draw a lot of flack from the regulatory body MOKE, which is working with other organ aid stations at the same time. So they are working with the local Emirates as well. They're working with FTA. So there are multiple government bodies involved here. So uh, absolutely, non-compliance should not be the way to go. From a strictly evidentiary point of view, all of this data has to be consolidated and uploaded onto the portal. As you can see, it was written MOKE with local authorities. Yes, again, the different kinds of risks that we see, the financing covenants, sustainability linked clauses, yeah, in the UAE credit market. Yeah, Arushi, you want to maybe quickly take this page?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I was same on the side, just responding to
Yeah.
folks. Yeah, perfect. So I think Jason was just recently talking about the penalty that is linked to non-compliance. But I think something that we want to urge everyone is to not look at this just primarily as compliance, right? There is a lot more that compliance with not compliance, but doing a formal GHG accounting activity, and also perhaps in the future developing a sustainability report can definitely give you, right? I think that something, right, like that lots of these sustainable finance, sustainability linked loans out there in the market, right, which become accessible to you if you have neat structured data and goals around GHG parameters. Today, another thing that we see is that lots and lots of government tenders today mandate certain sustainability policies, so sustainability reports, data to be in place, right? So you also get access to a lot many bigger customers by having key sustainability parameters in place. Sometimes you also have lower premiums. You can also get a lower premium when it comes to insurance as well. If you have just not I think not just having key ESG data would not be enough. You have to also take some action on implementing certain initiatives within your organization to achieve this, right? And of course, like reputational risk, etc. as well, right? Is super helpful. But this is something that is a little, you have to do a little more than just GHG emission accounting to achieve some of these things.
Can we have Jason talk a little bit about how HLB can support organizations in UAE?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the MRV mechanism, after which again the portal is named, stands for Monitor, Report, Verify, just to reiterate that. And monitoring and reporting are two very important aspects. But to sum it all up, there is a verification process. Again, the assurance statement, the limited liability assurance statement, uh, that is something you will have to go through an accredited, uh, licensed auditor. That is where HLB HAMT comes in with massive 27-year experience here in the UAE. We've got over 300 plus team right here in the UAE being supported by the HLB International banner. So having an assurance statement from an accredited and licensed auditor is very important to ensure that you're de-risking yourself and making your company's compliance process secure. So I think that is where it comes in. And in terms of risk management and for compliance managers, I think this is something very, very important. But yes, we sort of bind the whole MRV mechanism together with our assurance statements. But that said, the first two stages are also very important, which I think Arushi can also probably mention.
Yep, how we support is driving this entire. I mean, when it comes to MRV, Jason handles the V and we handle the MNR, right? Lots of questions around emission factors, what is scope one, what is scope two, right? I think lots of these parameters tend to differ between different organizations and different sectors, right? So we're kind of experts on identifying what is a fit for you, right? Someone was also asking questions regarding scope three, right? Again, that's a beast in itself, right? So that's something that we tackle, and how we do this is our AI first technology, Oren Sustainability Hub, which today is being used by organizations of all shapes and sizes across the world. And yeah, I think all of these emission factors are already built in, right? And on an annual basis, or as and when these emission factors are upgraded, it is our responsibility to make that upgrade for you. Today on the platform, we've created our own custom report to capture the data in a neat format such that it can be submitted to MoCA. And beyond that, not and again beyond that as well, we have the functionality to include any kind of custom reports that perhaps your customers are sending you, or your bankers need from you, or your investors need from you, so on and so forth, right? And at all points, this data is absolutely always audit ready. What that means is that when your auditor steps in and they want to review the methodology and the documents used, it's our responsibility to maintain those on your behalf and front end it with the auditor. Yes, questions. Amazing. I will let you all take scan the QR code that you see in front of you. And in the meantime, we will quickly start responding to some questions. Most of these questions have already been responded to, right? Whether government has released standard emission factors, yes, I believe so. companies in the region have been doing GHG emissions for a very long time, right? And these emission factors have been available. So the government tends to release emission factors for scope 2, which is pertaining to the grid. But for scope 1, you have to rely on IPCC, DEFRA kind of data sets for this data. I hope that is helpful to you, Sahil. Um, then is there a template for reporting on the MRV portal? Joyce, I think if there isn't a template available based on my understanding so far, right? However, this is nothing fancy, right? I think just talking about, I think that there's a standard template there that organizations across the world tend to use, right? Which is scope one, what is the source, what is the fuel, the emission factor utilized, and the final calculation. So nothing fancy. You can just pick up an Excel sheet and build it on top of that. Um, uh, Jason, I'll invite you to respond to one question. Does every submission need to be externally audited before filing?
Yes, again, so for Abu Dhabi, the law is different. There is a different authority. One of our participants, Aarti, also mentioned this. There is EAD. Uh, EAD is the authority which has a portal for submitting this. Now, in Abu Dhabi, the law applies differently to organizations. You need to have your M&R process in place. You need to have a carbon reporting done, but it doesn't have to be verified by a third party if you're not crossing a threshold of 25,000 tons of carbon dioxide. But for every other emirate other than Abu Dhabi, a third party verification is required. So for most of the people here, it applies, and only difference comes when it comes to the organizations based out of Abu Dhabi. So yeah, we will be having a session specifically for Abu Dhabi entities as well, just because Abu Dhabi has always been pro sustainability, and they've had their competent authority being set up much in advance to the other Emirates. DECA is the one for Dubai, but again, for most of the organizations in UAE, I mean, for everyone except the ones based out of Abu Dhabi, requires a third party verification. Yes.
Yeah, I think we have actually covered, like I was just going through it. Most of these have been covered, but I think one little thing I wanted to highlight, and it tends to come up a lot. And thank you so much, Swapnil, for asking that question, right? I think one question that we tend to get a lot, and which seems to be a big confusion, is that there are two parallel climate laws, right? And Jason did kind of cover that. You have the Federal Decree Law number 11, and second, you have something called a Cabinet Resolution number 67, right? Um, as per the federal decree law, which is the base law, all organizations, guys, each and every one of us have to do GHG emissions, right? Again, irrespective of your sector, irrespective of your size, irrespective of your scale, right? I think this is a repetitive question, and that's what the law says, right? All of us have to do it, right? That's on the federal decree law 11, right? Then second, right, and this is to Swapnil's question, that there is organizations that have scope 1 plus scope 2 emissions above, how much is it? I think 500K ton CO2 equivalent. Is that correct, Jason? Yeah, 500K, right?
Yes.
More than
Yeah, half a million.
half a million.
Half a
Yeah.
million. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those entities are classified as entities with, how do I put it, like huge carbon emissions. And I think what they have to do is they have to register themselves onto a separate national carbon credit registry. What Jason was talking about, right? So we're
Yeah.
happy to do a dedicated session for that. But that is, I mean, yes, while it is linked, but that is independent, right? But federal decree law is applicable to everyone.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Arashi. Today's session was so Wonderful. In interest of time, the questions we haven't been able to answer, the marketing team will pick it up and email them personally. Just to reiterate, Oren and HLB HAMT are jointly offering free ESG consultation and platform demo. So you can just scan the QR code here, or we've put in links in the chat box. So y'all can access for more information there as well. And yeah, we will be sharing the slides over email in the coming days. Um, yeah, thank you once again, and hope you all have a lovely
Yes.
rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Ahana, for moderating it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure as always, Arushi.
Yeah,
Just we
likewise,
will be
Jason.
sure to respond. We'll be sure to
Yeah,
respond to everyone's questions. I think we've got really, really good engagement. We couldn't
yeah.
really respond to each and every one. Uh, but yes, thank you everyone for joining and have a nice evening.